Well, hello again, Covenant Church. Aaron Dean here, and I've just been reading different articles about the increased marital struggles that people have been having since this stay-at-home order. And I thought maybe I would recommend something that's been of use to me and a resource that I recommend to any married couple, regardless of number of years, and anyone considering getting married. And the book that I'm going to recommend is When Sinners Say I Do by Dave Harvey, and you can get that on Amazon. I'll show you a picture of it here. And there's no way I could do the book justice, in these few short minutes, but it's fascinating because there are so many books and seminars and DVDs and on marriage and couples counseling. And while I think a lot of that is helpful, a lot of times it's not helpful in the fact that there's often not a theological basis or depth in those resources. Often the problem is not actually quite understood, which the problem is actually sin. And a lot of times we use different terms like codependency or family upbringing, which are true. But the ultimate source of our problem is sin. And what's fascinating about this book is that it's one of the best books I've ever read to really take the gospel and apply it to marriage. So we say the gospel has the answer for marriage and this and that, but it's very practical. So it's very theologically accurate, but it's also very practical. And that's why I'd recommend it reading as a couple if your marriage is something you'd want to improve on. So he talks about rightly identifying sin and having a low view of sin, what that creates in your heart, and having an idea of God's mercy, how much of a debtor we really are. And there's some fascinating aspects too, things that you may not have ever heard before. One of them is Dave Harvey talks about your spouse hooks your sin. And really what he means by that is we often look to change our spouse, and we have unmet needs and desires which aren't necessarily biblical to approach our spouse for needs and desires, but they're there, conscious and subconscious. And so what's fascinating is when he talks about, for example, your spouse hooks your sin, what he's really saying is suspect your heart first in a marital conflict. And we often don't do that. We're often pointing the fingers. And an example I would use maybe is if maybe you're in a public situation and maybe your wife made a statement in front of a group of your friends or peers, and it minorly condescended you or something that made you look bad, and perhaps that really infuriates you or triggers you, and you might talk to her later that night. Now, while she might not have done the right thing there, the fact that you're so upset at her and angry really means she's uncovered a sin spot in your life, not her life. There was something very important to you to demonstrate to those peers, whether it's a fear of man or a fear of being important. And so I can't really explain it all here, but it's a fascinating concept. One reason why I highly recommend the book. And to really suspect yourself first. And then he goes on to talk about mercy, not just mercy to get what you want, which is a turn of behavior, but intentional mercy, real forgiveness without expectation. And of course, he talks about Jesus and the Bible and the parable of the talents and how we've been forgiven the 10,000 talents, if you will. So it's just a great book. I would recommend it to anyone. You have this time at home as a couple, a married couple, or even maybe a dating couple. I would highly recommend it. It will serve you all of your days, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.